To talk about Metro Last Light, we would have to talk about Metro 2033 again, because Metro 2033 is a direct prequel to this game. Once you finish Metro 2033, you can move straight into this game, even though in the story a bit of time has passed. When I played Metro Last Light and immediately right after Metro 2033, I was surprised by what was given to me, what kind of story was able to tell, and how they were able to tell it. Because essentially, this entire story is a redemption arc for Artyom as a character, considering what he does in the previous game, which is blow up the Dark Ones. The whole idea behind the Dark Ones in Metro 2033 is that they are misunderstood. Even though they come off as hostile, they are not hostile. They're trying to be courteous, they're trying to help people. But instead of doing that, it came off as them being hostile and killing everyone and being the death of all humans within the Metro, even though they were their salvation. Mostly because of their way of communication. That's sort of the whole premise about the Dark Ones in Metro 2033.
The Dark Ones came much later, from the garden's direction. The Dark Ones, huge, towering a full head over the highest man. Nightmarish creatures, creepy as a man turned inside out. Monsters born to destroy us. The word was they were incredibly strong and unnaturally evil, that with bare paws they could tear armed men apart. That's all lies. Truth is even scarier.
Once you come to Metro Last Light, it's an entirely different story. You, Artyom, has destroyed their entire species, almost made them go extinct. And now at the beginning of this game, Khan, right in front of your face, tells you, you've done a mistake. You've made a boo-boo. You did something entirely wrong. And forces you kind of to correct that mistake by giving you a chance. The chance it gives you is the little Dark One that was left alive. Now, the little Dark One was able to avoid the blast because it wasn't at the Botanical Gardens at the time. Once you go pick up or kill the little Dark One, you then get in a sprawl of conspiracy around the Metro. Because it starts out with you getting captured by the Fourth Reich. Now, in Metro 2033, in my video, I mentioned the different factions. There is Hansa, the Reich, the Red Line, and the rest of the other independent stations. Now, Hansa is sort of the market station, right? So there's a lot of wealth within the Hansa station. The Fourth Reich is just the Nazis, and the Red Line is just the commies. And so they are back in a conflict with each other. That's sort of their whole shtick between the Reds and the Nazis. You, as Artyom, have to navigate both of these factions again, like you did in the first game. In the first game, you went through their war. But now you're actually going through their ward, which is an entirely different experience. Because now you get to see the behind the scenes, the people who are really running the show there. And what you gauge from these types of people. The Reds and the Nazis, they're very similar but also different from each other. They have different ideologies and they focus on different things. But they are both ruthless in their own way. Hansa is a faction that we will be discussing more so in the third game, Metro Exodus, more so than in Metro Last Light or Metro 2033. In Last Light, Artyom's entire journey is navigating through these factions. Now, to preface, one of the earlier levels in the game delves into the morality system, even though it's not so apparent. What I mean by this is you would have to stealth through the early missions on purpose and not kill as many people as possible, because that gives you the most amount of good reputation points. Even though it's a bit awkward going in that direction, but you get the point. It is trying to get reputation points by not killing anybody. I understand why they did something like this. However, it's still a bit awkward. Now, Artyom, his journey through these different factions takes him to meet a character named Pavel. This Pavel character takes you to one of the most interesting stations I've ever been in, which is the Bolshoi station, or the station where art still exists. It's a really interesting location because of what you get to see there. And that's exactly what I really loved about going through Metro Last Light again, is to see these locations all over again. You get to see more parts of the Metro that you didn't get to see in Metro 33, which is perfect, because that's exactly what you expect in the sequel, where you traverse another side of the Metro, even though it's a similar journey because you end up going back to Poland eventually. However, your main goal now is to find that little Dark One. You have to take that little Dark One back. right? Save him, essentially. When you go on this journey, Pavel will eventually betray you because he works with the Red Line, and so now your goal is to get out of the Red Line. But by doing so, you get to see the behind the scenes, who there is actually in charge and their ideals and how they think, which is great because you never get to see that in Metro 2033. Hence the whole idea of the factions being something that's put into the forefront here, because it involves the entirety of the Metro. As you go further down, you get out of the Nazis and the commies' grasp, you end up back with the Rangers. Now here's a little bit of an interesting situation, because your goal is to find the little dark one so that you may convince everybody else that they are their salvation, that we made a mistake by killing them all. That's sort of what Artyom is going through right now, trying to save the little dark one. He goes through a lot trying to get there. You go through boss fights, you meet other people, you saw more betrayal. Finally meets the little dark one, and you understand why the little dark one knows Artyom. See, the dark ones, they have sort of a hive mind mentality, where all of their memories and experiences are shared amongst all of their species. And so, even though this little dark one has never met Artyom, he knows about Artyom because Artyom is the first. The way this game explains it is that Artyom was the first to ever meet a dark one, and the dark one's first human they've ever met. And in doing so, he was able to create that connection. He was supposed to be that bridge between the humans and the Dark Ones, because the Dark Ones always wanted to beat their creators. The Dark Ones essentially were created by the radiation on the surface of the Earth. I explained in May 2033's video as they're sort of the evolution of humans or some sort of creature. But they believe that the humans are their creators, and they always wanted to meet the creators. They only were able to meet Artyom when he was much younger, when he snuck out of the station to see the surface. And in doing so, Artyom was now their connection. But instead of helping them, he was their destructor. He completely destroyed everything that they were, which is exactly why Artyom feels like shit when he sees this little dark one is all alone. Exactly like he felt when he lost his mother so many years ago. I do really like this little mission that happens in Athens, which is your goal to get to Polis. It is the last couple of missions of the game because you sort of went through a lot of the other stuff, right, within the station. Mainly what the Red Line was doing, because the whole plan of the Red Line was to poison the entire station. To get this poison, they stole it from D6. And D6 is now controlled by the Rangers, and everyone wants a piece of pie from D6. They think it's going to be the, even though at the very end of the game, we find out that it is not. Keep the D6 not being the salvation of mankind in a bottle, because we'll be coming back to that. Now, after Artyom goes through the turbulence of the Metro, which is the Red Line doing some weird shit, he ends up outside with the little dark one, saving it from almost being killed or being sold off to somebody else. By saving the little dark one, the dark one doesn't leave his side. He's trying to get to Polis because he needs to relay a message saying that the goal of the Red Line, what they're trying to do, is to take over D6, that's number one, but also how they're trying to do it. Artyom knows what's happening behind the scenes, and so he needs to get to Polis to convince them of something else. But now he's on the surface with this little dark one, and the dark one, he let him go so that he could, be on his own. But he never left his side because the little dark one wants to know Artyom. He really does want to get to know the person that killed his entire race. And so he stays around. He talks to Artyom and Artyom talks to him. Talks is a strong word because our main character is a silent protagonist. This becomes even more of a problem in the next game, but I'll get to it.
I was worried sick while you were running around in that terminal. Yermak said you brought the sleeper carriage. You are simply the best.
Thank you.
Sorry I'm talking so much, but I missed you. Okay, back to business.
Once we see this interaction between the two of them, it is amazing because this entire last couple of missions is some of my favorite in the entire game because you get to see how the Dark Ones view the surface. The surface is much more comfortable than the Metro. Unlike with the humans, they feel more comfortable in the Metro than they do on the surface. That is very apparent because of how everything on the surface wants to kill them. But for the Dark Ones, they know how to navigate the surface. They know what's not hostile towards them and what is hostile towards them. And whatever is hostile towards them, they can fight it off. They can survive here. It is the best way to have taught the humans how to survive on the surface, right? But the Dark Ones were no longer there. And you feel this more and more as you play through these levels because you see how useful and how reliable a Dark One can be, even if it's just a child. But also, this is a moment where you get to teach that child. These couple of missions teach you. Because there's two characters that you'll get a chance to spare or kill, or a bunch of the enemies that you have to either avoid or silently knock out, not kill. A lot of these are morality decisions, just like how there was earlier in the game with the calming stealth mission. Here, the morality is more so whether or not you're going to spare this person. And sparing this person teaches the little dark one that someone you don't like or you hate, letting them die instead of being the better man and helping them. Because that's exactly what you do with Pavel. Now, if you leave Pavel to die, the little dark one will say a very interesting line.
Kill the lot.
Forgive? I see. You did a lot of good. I will remember this.
But if you save Pavel, you'll also say an interesting line.
To live. So that's what forgiveness is. Thank you. I will remember this.
Both of these lines indicate how he views Artyom. Because that's exactly the case. Right now he hates Artyom, but he's trying to understand Artyom. And now what Artyom does to other people, he will realize, okay, it is okay for me to do the same to you. Because it makes more sense once you come to the end of the game. Because once this couple of missions are over, you spare or kill Pavel, you spare or kill Lesnitsky, the traitor from the Rangers, you then come to Polis, right, where he does help out and make sure that everyone understands what the red line is behind the scenes. Once he does that, we go back into the final mission, which is at D6, and you have to fight for D6. This is a massive war against the red line soldiers and D6 soldiers. There's very few of us. There's millions of them, and they keep coming over and over and over at you. And it's a big battle all the way until everything gets exploded and they're almost at a loss. So Miller decides to tell Artyom that the entire of D6 has been rigged with explosives, and now you can blow up D6. And this is where the ending and all of your choices throughout the entire game, and all of your good reputation points or bad reputation points, come to a halt. This is where you get to see the result of it. And the two results are, one, whether or not you turn the switch and everyone blows up, the Dark One leaves you to your machinations and you just blow everyone up. That is one ending. The other ending is where the Dark One stops you from blowing yourself up and handles the entirety. The Dark One, the little Dark One, as well as all the other Dark Ones, handles the entirety of the Red Line member. This is the second ending. This is the good ending, or the canon ending for this case. I'll get into more of why this canon ending confuses me once you get to Metro Exodus, but point is, that is exactly what happens. You save D6. But one of the journal entries that Artyom says in between the final war and the previous mission is that D6 is not what they think D6 is. D6 is not a bunker with supplies. It's not a government bomb shelter. This is a facility where they were making weapons and further ways to destroy humanity, essentially. And that's why it wasn't going to be the salvation, rather the destruction of the Metro. And it would have been the case if not for the Dark Ones, or if not for Artyom sacrificing himself, depending on which ending you got. Now, you only get this ending if you make a lot of the wrong decisions, or you build up a lot of bad reputation points. If you don't have enough good reputation points, the Dark One will not show up. But if you do, he will show up, because he understands that even though he hates you and all humans, even though he doesn't show it, he does, it's not right to leave you behind or to your own machinations to destroy yourselves. And that's one of the interesting parts about the story at this point. I was very surprised by this, but it does hit me that this was a combined story, a closure, that you get some sort of closure to the first game and the first game's ending. That's exactly what this entire game was really about. Even its gameplay is sort of a continuation, where in the first game it was about survival, and Artyom is new to this world, or to the Metro. Well, not entirely new to the Metro, but more so exploring it by himself. He's new to that, and so as he goes through it, it's more about his survival, trying to make it through. And now it's different. He's on a mission. He's trying to find something. He's trying to get to a place and find this person. Whereas in the first game, it's his first mission. It's also a mission of him not trying to die, and so the survival aspect makes sense. However, now he's dealing with all the members of the different parts of the Metro and all the different factions, and so battle and fight come into play, not survival. It's why this game is more centered on combat, and the combat is built around this full-on action, which is why it's really good. This brings us to the end of the saga, the Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. The only two games that actually take place within the Metro and the systems around it. Because once you get to Metro Exodus, we'll be seeing a much bigger world and more of Russia rather than just Moscow, which ties into these games a little bit, at least the smaller details.
He once told me, what if this little dark one is the last of the angels sent to save us? The fact that the little one came back and brought his kin, maybe that was the pardon and salvation for me, for the Order, for all of us in the Metro.
Ja. Dus your kind actions throughout the entire
last
game is
light
that.
of hope in this kingdom of darkness.
It will be better for everyone if we go away or two. But one day we'll come back. I'll be big then. Goodbye, my friend.